Hello and welcome to another episode of Awaken, Heal and Transform with your host, me, Francesca Raffa. I'm really excited to bring today's topic to the podcast with guest speaker Ali from Nurturing Folk. I met Ali earlier on at Medicine Festival this year in 2024. We were together at the Healing Village and we shared some moments at the end and then had the beauty of collaborating on a performance at Secret Brunch, where she invited me to sing alongside or channel alongside her and her singing bowls and her crystal bowls, which was truly a moment I will cherish deeply forever and in my heart. And through our connection, I've learned a little bit more about Ali's journey, and I'm really keen to hear more about it as we dive into it today around the detriments that self-abandonment can cause and the blocks that it causes, especially within the heart, and how this is one of the deeply conditioned wounds, really, as women, that we carry this almost ingrained function of self-abandoning for the benefit of others and for others to flourish, and yet not even realizing or noticing that we've completely abandoned ourselves and our needs. And Ali's journey is really inspiring, and I'm really keen to let her share it on today's episode. So let's welcome Ali. Hi Ali, welcome to the Awaken, Heal and Transform podcast. It's so exciting to have you here. I'm really keen to get into this conversation because I feel like what we're going to be speaking about today, I can always foresee things, but it's a huge topic that specifically for women is really, really important. So I'd love to open this up to hear, what has been your journey that has led you into being such an advocate for everything that you do now with Nurturing Folk?
Gosh. Firstly, I'm delighted to be here. Let's see. So I think there's always been a feeling that there is a better way or a different way than fitting into this very neat box that society asks people to just get inside so they know where they're at with you. And particularly with healing, for me, I found that leaning into nature, alternative therapies, and community actually has always been the most supportive way of healing myself through whatever's been going on for me. My journey has been really incremental into holistic therapies, but it really, really, there was a fire put under it after I had my second daughter, and I really lent into my training with my shamanic teacher at the time. I remember thinking, I just need something for myself, for my spirit, that is not motherhood. Whilst that is a beautiful journey, actually, I couldn't help but feel that there was something missing. You find yourself sitting in the local library singing "The Wheels on the Bus Go Round and Round" in quite a high-pitched voice, and it's quite soul-destroying. And you get to know people, but not on that deeper level. And it led me to find my first red tent, and also to really lean into, as I was saying, studying with my shamanic teacher as a full apprenticeship. So that
I
was,
don't know what a red tent is. Would you just let us know?
so red tent is a women's circle. Traditionally, it came from a book, right, called The Red Tent. And it's the idea that women would gather to bleed together. I found it was held always on the turns of the moons. And the first time I was there, the space was opened, and I swear there was about 20 of us just in tears. No one knew why we were in tears. you know, like there was just tears flowing. And I think it was just the sheer relief of beginning to heal that, the sister wound, the woman wound that I think a lot of female identifying people do experience.
Yeah.
I think we spend a lot of time in society being pitted against each other. I don't think it comes from women. I think it's that we grow up in a patriarchal society that does not serve us and doesn't encourage, what do I want to say? It doesn't encourage women to lean into each other and lean on each other. It encourages competition over co-creation.
Yeah.
Was my experience anyway.
I feel like as you sharing this, there's like an opening I'm sensing in my heart, because, and I'm even getting emotional in talking about it, because it's one of those remembrances, like as you experience in the red tent, but it's one of those experiences that you don't know you need it until you're in it. And as you shared there, you were all there crying and you didn't necessarily know why, but you were there witnessing the raw, real vulnerability of women and everything that, we endure as part of the patriarchal society. And so from when you became a mother and you were like, is this all I am now? Like, I guess that shift is, I'm a mother. So what was the deeper
Yeah.
work you were doing with your shaman at the time to unravel more of the layers of, that's not my identity. It's part of me, but not my identity.
So I was apprenticing for her. So she teaches a lot in London and worldwide. But so we went very deep. For me, it's talking to plants and trees. So that was the connection that I made. Her conversation was always, your biggest teacher is never a guru. Your biggest teacher will never be me. It will always be the natural world around you. She's very based in like animism, and the idea that this energy is accessible to all of us. There is no secret that is being gate kept. It is as simple as go and connect with the trees. They are our oldest teachers, and there's obviously ways that we can learn to be able to hear the natural world and use it, and harness its benefits and its teachings. But ultimately, the first bit is get out of the way, get your ego out of the way. And she's very low key, I suppose, is what I would say about her as a teacher. So she gave me an amazing grounding and lots of rites and ritual, but also was like very much, it's about intention. Your intention is your most powerful tool. And I think for me, it was reclaiming the magic. I do want to call it magic, but really reclaiming the magic and the wonder. So it's the idea, I suppose, of imagine you've been up all night breastfeeding. I was a single parent as well, so I was a single parent of these two very young children, working on very little sleep. Not a lot of people are single parents when their children are kind of 3 and 4 weeks old. And there was just this space that was just for me. And it probably was about nurturing, but it wasn't about mothering small children. I think it really guided me to learn to mother myself, because obviously our biggest mother, the most powerful mother, is Mother Earth. And I think without that, my motherhood journey would have felt very lacking. When we talk about archetypes, we talk about the mother in quite a revered way within spirituality, but actually the juxtaposition in society is so great. We think motherhood as a journey is amazing, but actually we don't have systems to support mothers. So there's this really wild disassociative feeling, I think, for a lot of mothers. They experience a lot of birth trauma, they experience a lot of like social trauma, and they find themselves very alone, having to relearn who they are. A lot of their identity has been moved, changed, shifted, put on pause. There is very little time for personal practice. And you're told that you are supposed to just be loving every minute of this. And it's not that you're not, it's that there's the and to everything. So you can be filled with awe and wonder for this life that you get to have be part of yours for a brief period of time. And it can just be really, really hard and human. And for me, I think coming back towards shamanic studies, coming back towards spirituality, coming back towards the land allowed my humanity, and it allowed me to experience all, and I mean all, of my feelings with no judgment. You know, that journey really started with sitting with trees, sitting on the land, being outdoors a lot. And then it allowed me to expand into these spaces where women were gathering and really seeing how much when we share our truth, our vulnerabilities, that nothing bad happens. You know, I've never looked around a circle of women, and I've shared some really difficult times and never had anything other than kindness, strength, beauty, support mirrored back. Like, you don't look around and see judgment, you know. It's, I say it when I teach at the moment in I teach like a mum and baby sound bath.
Yeah.
And I always say to them, listen, I can guarantee the only person that is judging you will be you in this space. I can promise you that there is no one else sitting here thinking, God, that mum really should be able to stop her baby crying.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. I'm just weaving the threads together what you've just shared, and the of having to almost remind yourself to meet yourself.
Very much.
Because within your day to day, within motherhood and these tasks, it's like the self abandonment is easy to do when there is so much to prioritize. There's these little ones that are requiring all of your attention, your assistance, they're learning from you, they're behaving from you. But if you are not in your fullest and you don't, and I think, going back to, let's say, the majority and how you shared that there is not a lot of systems that support mothers. How can they find this balance between ensuring that they're meeting their needs? And you mentioned there through intention, through coming back. But what was your process around self-abandonment? What was even your idea of that, or the concept, were you even made aware of it? Is what I'm trying to say.
So I think after my first child, the strongest feeling was that it was like playing a role. Like, I was very misinformed, obviously. I do want to just preempt this. But I was the youngest out of my friends to have had a child. There was no one kind of going before me. I didn't have any elders to look towards. My family lived really far away from me. And I remember thinking, oh God, like, I know how to have a baby because there was classes for that bit, but I don't know how to be in this new energy and space and body and a mind that is doing all sorts of wild gymnastics with hormones. And I think the first part was just complete abandonment of that carrying any weight, of that having any purpose. So, like, seeing those warning signs of like sorrow and grief for my old self, rather than seeing that obviously my body's being like, hey, remember me, and my spirit's crying out for my attention. It was like, no, 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 that's completely invalid. I don't need to pour into myself. I'm supposed to just be this self-sacrificing human being that only pours into my children, and my house is tidy, and you know. And I think the more time I spent, particularly with my eldest, because he is quite neurodiverse, so we found being outdoors was the best medicine for him. The more I saw that being outdoors was feeding my soul, and it also gave us much quieter moments. So, like that reverence for life that I think we experience through our spiritual journeys just started to glimmer through. It finds its way in anyway. That's how, yeah, that's, I think, how I would see it. But it was in stark contrast. I also started having anxiety. So I would have panic attacks. And the more and more I was ignoring my social needs, my human needs, my spiritual needs, the worse and worse these got. Because obviously the body will just ask more and more loudly, right? That was my way into breath work, was learning to manage my anxiety, my panic attacks in particular. So I think it's taken a really long time to realize the extent of my self-abandonment. I think I was like maybe 31 at the time that this was happening, and I remember really feeling like quite a baby. In I'd only healed to where I could within my capacity, and then I'd had a child, and then I could only heal yet again to where my capacity could take me, for the understanding that I had, for the compassion that I could have for myself. And I was nowhere near as compassionate. So I think my life journey now has been very much about learning to have a lot more compassion for myself and allowing my humanness. I think I was very good at allowing it for other people, but really not for myself.
Yeah, that's a really good point, isn't it? It's like if you can be empathetic and compassionate with everyone else, like taking a bit of your own medicine for yourself, and it's like it's easy to forget. I think it really is easy to forget. And I think these practices that you share, like the breath work, and you allow people to enter into and journey within themselves to recognize what these sensations that they're experiencing, whether it be anxiety or what people class as, bad. And almost when people are met with anxiety or anything that feels out of the ordinary, the instant reaction is, oh my gosh, I can't feel that. That's not a good thing to feel. No, and it's almost like through that you create more distraction or self-abandonment, right? To try and get yourself away from feeling those uncomfortable feelings. And then it builds up, right? Then it manifests more and stores more deeper and suppressed emotion going on, which causes long-term illnesses, doesn't it? I know you've experienced that yourself. Would you be keen to share your journey with that?
Yeah. So about 2 years ago, so my children were a bit older. My youngest would have been about 4 or 5, and I got diagnosed with breast cancer. Within all of this journey, the reason there was a lot of self-abandonment was because actually I was in quite a difficult relationship. And the best that I could do was just get me and the kids out. And then I kind of concentrated on making sure they were okay, making sure my nervous system was calm, but the deeper healing work that really needed to be done, there wasn't room for, not with tiny children. And it is my belief that actually that manifested in my body as cancer, that there was so much hurt, so much self-abandonment in order to survive, that it ended up resulting in a tumor, essentially. So I think sometimes when you can't process this energetic charge through yourself and release it, or you just don't know how to let go of it because it's so big,
Yeah.
your body does it for you. So it it, for me, and I know everyone's journey is different with cancer, but for me, it very much felt like my body made a tumor as like a last ditch attempt to really help me cut the ties with someone that was very abusive. And it did do that. Like I couldn't wish my cancer journey away at all, because so many really powerful lessons came from it. Do I wish cancer hadn't happened? Yes, of course, because it challenges your invincibility. It is very hard. It's hard to watch the effect it has on other people around you and how scary it is for them. And I also knew it would be okay, just in that deep knowing way. So I always say, like, my body is healing from cancer, rather than, it never felt like a fight. I didn't feel like I needed to beat it. It very much felt like something that I wanted to be rid of, but also needed to integrate the lessons of, I suppose. And I remember sitting there. I got home from hospital. I'd had a mastectomy and I'd had the rebuild from the back of my legs, and it had been over an 11-hour operation. And they keep you in hospital for really quite a short time. I got home and the kids were there. My partner was there. My neighbours were there. A couple of friends had come round to help with the kids. And I remember sitting there and thinking, well, I really can't ask all of these people to show up and love me and not 100% receive their love and let it like land in me in a healing way. And because of life experience, I've built walls and I've been very protective, and there's fear.
Yeah.
And it was my deepest healing to date, I think, was just this absolute realization that all these people had turned up. I had the biggest and most amazing community around me while I was healing. And I just had to get out of my own way. Like, I just had to get out of my own way, because it was all there to receive.
Wow. I really love that perspective shift on I wasn't fighting cancer. I didn't fight cancer. I was healing
Yeah.
through cancer. I was healing through cancer. And it's a really beautiful way to look at it, because it's often, I haven't been through the journey, I can't imagine, but I work with a lot of clients that are in that space, and it drops your entire world, right? Everything comes crashing down, and it makes you see things from a whole new perspective. And from a shamanic principle, or any form of holistic medicine or therapy, we always talk about prevention is better than cure, and being really in tune with making sure because life is life, right? Life is life. And sometimes we are in spaces where we have to be in survival for a certain period of time. Like, that is the reality. Any healer, any whatever, is still going through life, and that is the process. And it's always about remembering or making sure you find space to come back when you have it. And I think you mentioned that there, when you didn't have the space, but then it manifested and it forced you to have the space to move through that healing. That was ultimately a liberation, for you to then be able to receive support from those that love you, which those layers were kind of creating maybe a blind, like, sometimes it's like a rose tinted glasses, isn't it? Around like, well, do they really love me if I don't abandon my needs and wants to meet their needs, and it's, you know what I mean? Or it's like this test on boundaries around, well, yeah, but the only person that's creating that is yourself, because you're not allowing that to drop. So you're continuously perpetuating that pattern.
Yeah. And a lot of my worth was most definitely based on what could I give to others.
Yeah.
If I'm not productive as a friend, as a daughter, as a sister, as a partner, what is my worth? And then when you're forced to really look at your life and the fact you could lose it, I think it gives this moment of clarity that actually your worth and what you place on your life is really important. And I could not, for the love of anything, do that by myself. I needed cancer to come along and be like, no, you value yourself, you value your life, yeah. And it's it's really changed how I move through this world. Like, I do place a lot of value on myself now, not because of what I can do for other people, but just because either we're all special and amazing, or no one is, right? It's the idea of you wake up in the morning and everything is a miracle or nothing is a miracle. Which way do you want to look at the world? So, yeah.
And that's talking about self-value. That's a really great topic to bring in, because how do you know if you value yourself?
So, my view would be that it comes from the space of, you know, those moments where you feel like you've come out of alignment and there's a voice that says, oh, I'm a little bit worried about myself. It's like the inner mother, right? So that for me is my, you are worth something. I place value on you. Your well-being is important. Have you like just the most basic things? Have you eaten today? Have you been outside? Have you gotten sunlight in your eyes? Are you doing the most basic of things, right? Because it's all ultimately it's inner child work. We're teaching our inner child. We're not in society. We hear a lot about looking after our inner child, right? Allowing our inner child to have its emotions, but actually that's also infantilizing our inner child. So they grow as we grow, as our knowledge grows. And ultimately, the aim actually is that we want to teach our inner child to be able to feed themselves. And so that for me is where you can really start to see your self-worth coming, is when you're not trying to only love that inner child, you're also really helping them become independent inside. It completely shifts your inner landscape, would be my understanding of it.
That's really beautiful. I haven't heard that perspective before. I really love that. I think also, to add to that, it's and I suppose it's similar. I think I was sharing this with someone the other day around, you in this moment value yourself, right? Because you're here. But it's the parts that the parts of you that you're still shaming in past versions of yourself, that aren't feeling valued, which is creating you to not value yourself in the now.
Yeah, it's exactly that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's one of the exercises. I mean, maybe you have an exercise to share, but I think I want to share this because it might be really useful. Is to go back and have a look at all of those versions of yourself that you're still shaming for decisions you've made, for situations you've done, for behaviors you've had, and come at them from a compassionate place of understanding why they may have done what they have done, and also knowing that they didn't know any better, and to offer that. I think you go back to that, the mothering, the inner mother. What would the nurturing inner mother want their child to feel? Unconditional love. And yeah, to bring that practice in on to remind yourself that in this moment you're valuable, but it's just those parts that aren't feeling valuable, and to bring them back in, to integrate it back into wholeness. I think this is what all the journey is. And your journey sparked you into the fragmented hurt within your heart of the self-abandonment that needed to be reclaimed, as you shared. So talk a little bit about the breath work and that journey within that. Was that something that really assisted you to just come back into your center?
So both like shamanic journeying first was where I first really started, because obviously it's just a deep empowerment when you learn to journey. So I think that was my beginning introduction to seeking and collecting the parts of myself, you know, and really compassionately, I think, almost putting myself back together. Breathwork came during COVID, and I remember just thinking, oh my God, I have to do something. I have to do something for myself, like to to be able to hear myself. And so I signed up to just this day retreat online, and I was messaging with the people who own the breathwork company, and they were like, "Oh my God, you are a breather. Have you thought about doing our year-long training?" And I was like, "I am a single parent. I can't afford it." And they were like, "No, we want to gift it to you." And that was my really deep initiation into a breathwork practice, because we would breathe for about 90 minutes at a time. And it wasn't kind of what you see a lot on social media, where we see the very cathartic big release, which is completely valid, and I do teach that as well. But it was very much about using your breath to watch the subtle shifts in your inner landscape. The way I suppose I'd explain it is, if you're sitting and clouds are passing over, and you can watch the light change and things shift, and the breath allows you to be still enough for long enough that your body and your inner world will begin to speak. So really interesting beliefs that I'd had, and I spent a lot of time in talking therapy, and they weren't flagged. These, I'm going through life with these absolutes inbuilt in me, right? And one breathwork session, you come out and you're like, who knew I was walking around looking at the world in that particular way? Because I certainly didn't. So I couldn't have expressed it to my therapist, and they couldn't have undone that work. So that was a really interesting time. And I kind of loved the lockdown period for the space and the introspection and the permission to just get off this conveyor belt,
Yeah, I think a lot of people's lives changed during COVID time, and the pausing, the stopping, the reflecting, the recalibrating, the shifting. I think everyone that I've spoken to, most of their journey started during lockdown, because it did make us shift our perspective on the world, and our perspective of the world is what really creates our reality. It's what shifts the frequency that we hold, what we're able to vibrate at, and what we're able to see. It's like someone who can see the cup half empty or half full, and it's really your perception of that, and even the challenges that you face, like how you've experienced your cancer journey, and really seeing it as part of your healing and part of life, not a part that you want to kind of chunk out, right? It's a part of you that is integrating within you all the time, that's coexisting in every moment.
Yeah. And I think a lot of our healing work is best done when, rather than trying to get over something so we can push it over here, right? We actually are consistently putting our arms around all of it. We're welcoming all of ourselves. I start a lot of my retreats in particular with this thing where I smudge everyone, I welcome them or anoint them, and then we say to them, all of you is welcome, all of yourselves are welcome. And you say it 3 times, and it kind of gets a bit weird for people because you can see people be like, yeah, all right, yeah, okay, yeah. And you're like, and you'll see the penny drop after the opening ceremony, because we're all crying at that point. And you're like, no, I really meant it. Like every single one, like little you, future you, wounded you, all of it. Like bring it all, because actually, if you allow it to be welcome, it's going to be more welcome in yourself going forward. So when you leave that retreat, it hasn't just been this 3 days away. It's been a transformational experience, really. But it starts with allowing all parts of yourself in.
Yeah, I love that. All parts of you are welcome.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we need to allow it for ourselves, don't we, before we can even allow it for it to be witnessed and seen. And that's Yeah, even as we're speaking, it's about noticing what is like what words are sparking something within you as you're speaking. I'm feeling, tension in the throat. I'm feeling that, and it's like just being aware of the sensations of all parts of me are welcome, even in this moment. I don't necessarily need to make sense of why or what is happening. I think when we get caught up in the mind around trying to fixate on what sensations are moving through our body, that creates the block in allowing them to just be moved through or expressed through.
Oh, we love a story as humans. We love to attach a story to why we are the way we are, to be able to explain it away. And it's actually, I think, one of the most devaluing ways of allowing an incredibly pure emotion, right? Because when you look at tiny children, they're not blaming someone for the fact they're sobbing or crying or giggling, or they are in the most pure essence.
Yeah.
And I think really for me, one of my big journeys is getting back to the essence of an emotion rather than the verbal version of the story. So I can explain to you joy or sadness or rage brilliantly with my words. How often can I truly fully experience it? And that for me is part of like your self-abandonment stuff, right? Is we experience, whether it's rage, frustration, guilt, shame, all the favorites that we're told we're not allowed to experience. And I'm pretty sure most people don't even allow a beat to happen before they start going, well, it's because, and it's this, and it's that, and da da da. Has the story made it any better? Has it allowed it to pass through your body? No, it hasn't. Actually, we've now learned, almost in the way that we would learn lines as an actor, why we are the way we are. And then we put it on like it's an identity, and we walk around with that identity. I'm a people pleaser. I'm angry because I had this experience.
Yeah.
Are you? Like, for sure, yeah, that experience made you angry, but anger as a charge is in your body because you haven't learned to alchemize it yet. And I think that's where we self-abandon. That's where I see everyone self-abandon.
Oof.
You
I
know?
think that's beautiful, beautifully said, really beautifully said. Because the justifications of the mind that likes to put, yeah, like you said, like likes to put the stories on who we are, when really everything is just moving through us, just like it is in nature, just like the seasons move through in their transition phase. And yeah, it can be hard when we're in a space that kind of demands, or the patriarchal systems that demands this kind of linear successful growth. And it's really having to reframe that for us to bring in a sense of harmony. This is the teachings of the feminine, and shamanic work in itself is really feminine mysteries. A lot of people don't really share the connection between that, but the interconnection of everything. That just, it is what it is.
It's like, but it really is that.
It really is that. And it's like, no, you can laugh at it. It's like, this, I'm feeling this, and it is what it is. And it's kind of like bringing that sense of like humor back to yourself. Like life doesn't have to be, or yourself doesn't have to be so serious.
Yeah.
And how then that opens the heart to actually deepen connections with others, to hold safer spaces for others to express as well. It's almost like, when someone's in their full expression, and then you're kind of witnessing them in awe, and you're like, oh, but now this gives me permission to be in my full expression. And I
Yes.
love when I witness those moments. And imagine if the world was in their full expression.
Wow. All the men would be running around being like, the world has gone mad. Tell everyone to sit down. But ultimately, we would move through our emotions a lot quicker, right?
Yeah.
It's I think we all have a baseline You know, some people's is up here, some people's can kind of be here, some people's does that. We all have this baseline emotion of probably contentment, and then we have the capacity to experience everything else around us. But I find the more capacity we have to meet ourselves, the more capacity we have to meet the world. You know, and that in turn increases your capacity to experience joy and rage. Because I tell you what, like pure rage has been one of the most exhilarating charges of emotion to allow to pass fully through me. It was fascinating to just be like, I've got nothing left to lose. I don't care. Like, not that I don't care about myself, not that I don't care about my children, as in I don't care to keep up appearances any longer. I don't care to keep trying, keep coping, keep whatever. I'm just going to allow this facade to completely drop. And what was interesting is once I had this moment of like pure rage, my panic attacks didn't come back. Didn't have panic attacks for, I'd probably say like 2 or 3 years. You know, because that was the attention. It was like, wake up, wake up, wake up, see what's in front of you, look at what you're avoiding. You know, and you have to self-abandon to avoid huge wounds of your own. I think it's something you said there really got me thinking about the idea that, you know, we talk a lot about the wounded healer. And the healed healer. And I don't love either idea. What about the human healer? Like just the person with their feet on the earth, their head in whichever dimension they're in, doing life, you know, just doing life. And because ultimately what we're doing is we're going and we're information seeking to share information with other people, like however that information comes through, whether it's spirit, trees, whatever. Some of my best work, some of my best space holding ceremony, like, has been done when my outside life has looked like it's in complete ruin. But I'm still really regulated. Because I'm not self-abandoning, and I'm not running away from the experience. I'm, like, as you were saying, I'm in complete expression in those moments. I'm not trying to change or fight against or hide from anything. And I think ultimately I have lots of vehicles that I work with my clients, but the main piece of work that I'm offering, that I do for people, is to just hold an incredibly fierce space so they can just be fully themselves, which sounds very simple, but actually really helping people coax out their scared inner child, all the bits that they've decided are unlovable, all the bits that they are embarrassed by or feel shame towards, and just saying, what would that look like if we welcome them in? What would happen if you loved that part of you, even though it wasn't the most attractive thing in the world that you're judging it as, you know, or it wasn't perfect or performative.
The profoundness in simplicity. We can overcomplicate what healing looks like. We can make it look really, you know, fancy and put all of the cherries on top of it. But yet, from a human level of the complex layers that we hold, it is bringing the fragmented parts back into wholeness in whichever way. And ultimately, doing that with someone, having someone hold you in that, is actually more powerful than being able, like more healing comes from that than being able to do it on your own. Because I always say that it's kind of like, is our experience an experience if we haven't got anyone to witness or be seen in that?
It's being seen, and I think it's realizing that when you bring that bad bit You know, I'm using inverted commas because nothing
Yes.
is bad and nothing is good. Everything just is. When we bring those bad bits in, actually, it can feel really unsafe. You know, the first time you meet that bit that, and it's normally our parents are the first people that have created that shame towards that behavior that we then walk through our whole life believing. And so you're almost allowing them to borrow your inner mother or your inner parent just for that moment until they find their own, so that they can see that actually it's not so scary, that nothing really bad is going to happen. Yeah, just being a guide.
Yeah. I shared something that I think feels supportive of this space right now before um, we kind of come to a close, but I think it was around the self-abandoned daughter feels the need to overgive, overcompensate, and overprovide, and then all of that is forgetting that she is abandoning herself in the process. And it kind of sums up very much about what we're talking about today, because the process of healing through that is self-love and value. And as we've spoken about how to find or reclaim, because value isn't gone, it's about reclaiming the value that has been lost in the times that haven't been honored or times that haven't been acknowledged, or all of those parts of self with the frozen emotion or suppressed emotion that hasn't been felt. So, how can every lovely, beautiful being that is listening to this connect with you, Ali? And what are you
So,
offering at the moment? I know you've spoken of your offers, but is there anything
yeah.
specific that you have?
So I work in a few different ways. I work doing breath work for healing, which connects you to your inner world. Energy work, which is predominantly Reiki, but some shamanic work woven in. And sound healing is my, you know, one of my loves. I love my instruments. And finally, the thing that I do is facial massage, which always sounds like it doesn't quite match in with everything else. But actually, as humans, we need touch often. And all I'm doing when I'm massaging your face is working on your meridian system, all the lines that run through your body that are holding these old stories. We're unblocking those channels, and we're simply releasing all of the sadness, all of the stress, all of the things that we store in our faces with those repetitive motions. Yeah, it's delicious. It's such a delicious treatment. And it's great for soothing your nervous system. A lot of my clients are very trauma informed in their lives, and I find touch is one of the best ways before we start doing big pieces of work. You know, we go safely, we go slowly, and often that's helping create safety first and foremost. And I find that's through massage quite often. So I do that for one-to-ones. I teach classes and workshops, and I run retreats. So there's lots of different ways to work as deeply, as lightly, to test out, get a flavour
Do
before
you
you
have any
kind of.
retreats coming up?
I hired a private valet, which is delightful. It's called Rewild, and it's from a Friday through to a Sunday. It's in a private valley in Sussex, and it is wonderful. We've got medicinal movement, breath work, sound healing, time in nature, fire ceremony. Yeah, it's a really juicy one, actually, that one. I just find people leave that just being like, wow, what happened? It's the third year I'm running it, so I'm really excited.
Deliciousness. I'm going to make sure I drop that into the show notes for people to find that. And also, I'm super excited to have you coming into the calling this month of November to guide a cosmic breath work. So I'm going to pop the details into that as well. And Ali, we've covered lots of different topics on your journey and around self-value and self-abandonment today. Is there anything you would like to leave the listeners with? Maybe a word of wisdom or something that really changed your life that you may have heard?
So it was actually very recently, it was a realization rather than anything I heard. But so I've spent a lot of my time thinking that my healing journey has been about learning to have better boundaries. And actually, it was never about having better boundaries. I've got perfectly good boundaries. It was about placing enough self worth on myself that I could stop self-abandoning. So the reason I was self-abandoning this whole time was because I was so scared that if I wasn't small enough or perfect enough or whatever that was, that I would lose the love of the people around me. And when you begin to realize that you're functioning from this place of fear and this place of scarcity, well, good boundaries or bad boundaries aren't going to make any difference. Good relationships, bad relationships, because you're not in your fullest expression, right? So, you know, and this will carry on unfolding. Like, I'm only halfway through my life. There is always, it's always the cycle. You keep on learning every time. But I think identifying why you self-abandon,
Beautiful.
like what the story is, why you're protecting yourself,
Yeah.
because it is just a protective thing, right? No one does it
Yeah.
because they're being silly, which is kind of what we're led to believe as women. Often we self-abandon out of a need for survival. But, you know, we all deserve to thrive, not survive. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Oh,
Thank
lovely.
you.
Thank you so much. And I will pop all of your details into the show notes. Thank you for your
Amazing.
insights and your love today.
Oh, really nice to spend some time with you. I look forward to seeing you for Cosmic Breath.
Yay. Bye, Ali.
Bye.